Hello everybody. So this video is entitled MSTR stock Bitcoin is back? Question mark. Is Bitcoin back? Some signs are here. But before I talk about Bitcoin, of course, I need to talk about Saylor's latest image drop, I suppose. More orange dots are coming. Saylor quoting Bitcoin is digital energy. What do I expect this coming week? Only a small Bitcoin buy. I don't expect anything big. And I think it's highly credible that he could have done a buyback. But what sort of buyback could it be? Could it be the credit? Could it be the stock? I think the stock is likely. The stock was really cheap. At some point, it may have been a no-brainer. Then again, we don't know because we know that new charts are coming. He didn't drop the new charts the last time. New charts are coming. What could these be? Regardless, I expect a few announcements tomorrow, but I also expect that the buy or the buyback, whatever there is, will be small. To me, this is Saylor's version of waiting. He's waiting for the Bitcoin market to recover, and I think we all are waiting for the Bitcoin market to recover. Of course, when Bitcoin doesn't do well, strategy cannot do well. The credit instruments cannot do well. No financial advice. These are very risky instruments. If Bitcoin fails, everything fails, and we need Bitcoin to make a comeback, and it looks like it could be starting to do that actually, because we are sitting at 62.7 as I record this, and we broke 63,000 yesterday, so that was very positive, and I know a lot of people online are claiming it's going to go to 48 or 42 or the 40s, and it very much could, but it also couldn't. And if it can't, then I don't want to miss out at 62, and I don't want to miss out on the BTC treasuries and their price when Bitcoin is at 62. Of course, it could go lower. Bitcoin is a crazy volatility machine, but you have to realize that if Bitcoin were to drop to, say, $45,000, then you would have people calling for Bitcoin going to $20,000, and it's always like that. It seems like calling for a 50% downside on any asset is the sweet spot for engagement farming. It's the sweet spot for getting the views, for creating the fear, and so the lower we go, the more fear there will be. And that's why the price and the fear index are somewhat related, and I think it begins to be pretty established now that it's actually the price that drives the narrative, and it's the price that drives the fear. And we have recovered a little bit, right? We're at 58,000. We're now at 63. Well, let's round it up, right? Let's call it 63,000. We've recovered 5,000. And what do you notice when this happens? You notice the fear and greed index is now going back into the fear territory at a 26. We'll take it. I'll take a 26 compared to the extreme fear levels that we had just 5 days ago again. So I will take it. If you look at the BTC fear only index, only Bitcoin fear, we moved from 11 to a 23, and we have some optimism on a few things. A lot of the odds on the prediction markets and the betting markets, and even if you look at the odds of Bitcoin going below 50 this year, etc., some of these odds are clearly rebalancing on the backup. Even the crypto market structure bill, the so-called Clarity bill, is going back up to 43%. Of course, that's very important because this would get rid of a lot of manipulation, a lot of wash trading. A lot of people are getting liquidated, and that's because Bitcoin is at the edge of risk. Bitcoin is risky. Bitcoin in many spaces is still the Wild West, and so we need clarity. We need structure. We need some regulation passed in the U.S. These odds coming back up. These odds are now back up, and it would be nice if throughout the month of July these odds actually went back up. But I know they go on vacation, so I don't expect this to move too fast, right? They go on vacation, but still I think it's pretty positive. If you look at the stock price, we recovered nicely. I mean we were trading in the low 80s. We are now trading in the low 100s. So this is a recovery, but of course it's 4 days, right? 4 days worth of a comeback. If you look at the performance since the past 6 months, it's been bad, and there's no other way to say it. But why has Strategy's performance been bad, to say the least? Well, it's been bad because Bitcoin's performance has been bad. That's just the way it is. But maybe we went too low too far, too low too soon, too low too quick, whatever you want to call it. We went. I think this was overdone. But then again, I don't know. If Bitcoin goes to 48, all bets are off. If Bitcoin goes to 48, Strategy will be in trouble. At least as the stock price is concerned, not the capital structure. The capital structure is not mark to market. There is no such thing as liquidations in the capital structure of Strategy and the way it's set up with perpetuals, perpetual preferred. The keyword is perpetual. You just need to pay the yield. That's all you need to do. There is no redemption risk at Strategy. The debt is not to be redeemed, only the convert, and he reduced the convert. But anyways, we're back. We're back up. We're at 1.07 mNAV. This is not very good. I would like us to be back at a 1.2, and this might take another few weeks for us to recover, but this especially takes Bitcoin to make a comeback. Especially takes Bitcoin to make a comeback. I want to point out, of course, Stretch. Stretch is up a whopping 21% in a matter of 5 days. When I look at the performance of Stretch, what does this tell me? It tells me that it was overdone. Overdone by fear. The sell-off was overdone. Retail was overly fearful, and that's one of the downside where Stretch was an instrument that was held by a lot of retail. There's also a possibility that a lot of people not only were fearful and so sold it, but perhaps some people, quote unquote, looped it, and there were some liquidations related to that. But perhaps a loop on the TradFi market, i.e., using margin to buy instruments. And so this is something, of course, on this channel that I speak strongly against. I speak strongly against margin on this channel. But this is what happens. People are like, oh, okay, I'm getting charged 4% on Robinhood. This pays, 12%. Why don't I lever up? And this is how you can get some risk unfold. But anyways, if you look at the comeback of STRC, if you look at STRC making a comeback, you can see it could be taking a breather over the next few days until it continues its rise up. But we need Bitcoin to come back up. If Bitcoin comes back up, I think things will be looking strong for Stretch. But if you look, every time Stretch has had major drops, of which it's had a few, namely December 2025, February 2026, it's had a few of these drops every time it took a little bit of a breather. There may be a breather around 90 before we move back to the upside. But boy, were these instruments a deal 5 days ago. The market was entirely capitulating 5 days ago. This is not the case anymore. The market may be coming back to its senses and to a more reasonable assessment of the instruments. And let me conclude with two things. More tweets, right? Analyzing Saylor's tweets. Of course, if you look at the average price target of Wall Street analysts, it's actually super high. It's actually much higher than $100. So Wall Street analysts, I guess they don't necessarily joke about these things, and they do analysis, and they have a quite high price targets. Of course, I don't really follow Wall Street analysts and their price target. I think a lot of them have gotten a lot of things very, very wrong, especially on innovative assets, right? Innovative assets like Bitcoin, like Tesla. Usually they haven't done too well. But if you look at this analyst, Saylor retweeting this analyst, talking about potentially Strategy surging to 570 if we reach back 95k. The if is the big deal. It's all dependent on this if. It's all dependent on Bitcoin making a comeback. If Bitcoin makes a comeback, this is going to be a stellar investment. If Bitcoin makes a comeback. Of course, nothing is ever guaranteed. You still have, enterprise risk. That's a fact. But, the risk is very high in this space, and you wouldn't be looking at this space if it weren't for the risk. I mean, people are looking at this space because it's a risky space, but they know it's a risky space. Volatility is highly risky. If you're not a risk-seeking type of person, these investments are absolutely not for you. But anyways, Saylor talking at Goldman Sachs Digital Asset Conference. Goldman Sachs looking at this type of assets. Of course, a lot of Wall Street, a lot of hedge funds are looking at these assets, investing in these assets. Saylor is talking to both sides of the ecosystem, to both sides of the community, talking to Wall Street, of course, but also talking the Bitcoiners. The big debate in Bitcoin right now, of course, is the protocol changes, Bitcoin Core versus Bitcoin Nuts. A lot of people debate JPEGs on the blockchain and whether someone should be able to encrypt images on the blockchain. And Saylor has spoke about that before. Saylor is very much against that. At least he doesn't say it directly because he's a highly political person. But if you read political in a good sense, right? Influential person is the word I should say. If you read between the lines, to me it's very clear that Saylor wants the protocol unaltered and doesn't want to see people make some form of long-term storage for posterity on Bitcoin, storing data on Bitcoin. This is not what the blockchain was created for, and so Saylor is speaking against that, taking some time to write about this over the weekend, and so Saylor's talking to both sides of capital, to both the blockchain folks, the crypto folks, and to the Wall Street folks. And I think this is what puts him in such a special situation, heading this company, who is the largest holder of Bitcoin. With IBIT, right? Them and IBIT, they're both the largest holder of Bitcoin. But I would need to check. I think IBIT is slightly lower now of strategy if we look at all the Bitcoin that existed IBIT. But anyway, exited IBIT. But anyways. As always, let me conclude this video. This is not financial advice. This is very risky stuff. These are risky assets. So not ever financial advice on this channel. This is only entertainment. And I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.